Hi, I'm Suzanne, third time lucky,
I'm Zoe.
and you're listening to Sex Advice for Seniors. And in the pre planned way that we do with this show, Zoe texted me about 5 minutes before this and said, "What are we talking about, Suzanne?" And I said, "How about blowjobs?" And she went, "Oh, yeah," with about 5 exclamation points. So I think that sounded positive to me. And I thought,
Yeah, I'm so excited because anytime maybe I've said this here and shared this here, but I am a scrotum evangelist. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm just fascinated by this part of the body that must feel so different from the way my crotch feels to have this thing hanging down there, but it's just sort of like yeah, I'm fascinated and I love scrotums, and anytime that I can have an opportunity to get on my soapbox about the most underrated part of the male anatomy, so I figured, yes, blowjobs, that's in close proximity and with a little optional involvement of the scrotum.
of course, and there are many other body parts that we know as you can involve as alongside the blowjob. It's there's a whole pleasure zone there: the scrotum, the perineum, your prostate. There's so much other stuff going on down there that you can play around with. And I think
Yeah.
I think I've said this before I met you, but when I was younger and I didn't really understand about male anatomy at all, I thought that the nerve endings and everything that was going on was at the base of the penis. And I thought that's why Linda Lovelace had that deep throat movie. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought so she could get all the way down to the bottom because
Yeah.
that's must be where the exciting stuff is. And then I was like, and then of course somebody very kindly taught me what I was doing wrong, which was probably the best lesson I've ever had in, male anatomy.
Yeah.
And he was like, I honestly don't know what you're doing, but it's not going on down there.
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, really? Is it? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So what should I be doing?" And he taught me about the head and that little bit just under the head where the
The
sensitivity is.
frenulum. The
Thank
frenulum,
you.
the
Brenda.
technical term.
Thank you for that technical
The
term,
little
Zoe.
wrinkly part.
And that he taught me about that. And and then that transformed my abilities. And then since then, I have been told, I don't mind telling you, I was with a boyfriend once, and we brought back this couple, and she was Spanish and very hot, and she said, I'm not going to try and do a Spanish accent because I'm bloody awful at it. She
Mm.
said, "Have you ever had a blowjob from a Spanish girl?" And he said, "No, but I've had it from a New York Jewish girl, and it doesn't get better than that."
Oh, I
And
love
I know
that.
that you.
There's a sort of a cultural narrative or an urban myth or whatever that Jewish women don't give head.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
right. That was never his experience. But
Well, I don't think that it rings true. I don't think that it plays out that way at all, but that's the sort of myth.
mythology, yeah,
Yeah.
messes with their nails,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, one of the things that I recognized after that initial lesson was that A, I'd been doing it all wrong. But B, and subsequent to that, was that, just like going down on a woman, every guy likes it differently. Every single one. I've never met two that like it exactly the same. They just, oh, it's like, oh, maybe a bit slower, a bit harder, a bit faster. Touch my bum, touch my scrotum. Can you do that? Can you grab my nipples at the same time? It's
Yes.
like, oh, okay, okay. Where
Yes.
are we? Where am I here with this one? So,
Yes. Exactly. And one of the things that I think is a big difference between a male body and a female body, and I was talking to my husband about this years ago now, but he was saying that women are wired, so in his experience, women are wired like you could turn her on by caressing her ankle,
Mm.
and that men tend not to be that way. Now, I don't know. I do know, actually, if it's nature or nurture, right? There's a little bit of nurture. There's a little bit of conditioning that
Mm.
men are very penis centric, right?
Yeah.
And but there is something really real and physiological about their sexual response, their arousal, that is penis centric. Like Andrew was like, don't try to kiss my neck and kiss my fin, do the thing, and like say nice things. Just get down there. Like,
Really? Mm.
yeah, he loves all of that, but but that's more connective, and it's not the sexual component of it, it's the
Yeah.
emotional component of it. And the
Yeah.
emotional component is much less indelibly linked to the sexual component for most men.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I suppose that's true. Although recently I've met a lot of guys who just are super into nipple play, like massively, and
Yeah,
they can't even get an orgasm without it. It's really,
I've
and
had a
I
few
want,
lovers like that. Yeah,
yeah, and while you're going down, they want you to be tweaking their nipples and twirling them and pinching them and doing all this stuff, and you're like, okay, okay, I got to remember a lot of things are going on here. And then you stop, and they're like, no, no, why'd you stop? Don't stop, don't stop. We're like, oh, okay, 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 sorry, I thought I could just carry on with just the stuff down. So no, 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 you got to carry on
yeah,
with the nipple stuff as well. I guess there is definitely something about the nipples going down to the genitals. Oh, there it is,
yes.
definitely.
For some people not so much.
For some people,
But I
yeah.
have had a couple of lovers for whom that is true. They're like, one of them actually said to me, my left nipple is hardwired to my dick.
Yeah.
And and um I'm a very generous lover, and and nothing really, it's like, if it's good for you, I'm generally okay with it. Whatever, it's fine. Like, I'm here to give you pleasure in whatever way you need. But I have to say, and this is not, God, for all my past lovers who are listening and the ones who are into their nipples, I'm just going to say now that it's not like it's actually a turnoff for me.
Really? Oh,
A
right.
little bit. Like, it's okay if you want to do that on your own, like for yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not I don't know why. It's not rational. We have these things that kind of turn us off that are not rational. And that's one of them. I don't like it.
Really? Oh, see, I don't mind it at all. And I think, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, if it makes you feel good and stuff, then I'm just going to do it. I just know that, I'm not, I, there's a certain amount of dexterity that goes into trying to pleasure multiple areas at the same
Yes.
time.
That aren't even
And,
in close
and
proximity.
exactly right. So if you're with a tall, really tall guy and your hands kind of stretched all the way out to his nipple, and then you're all the way down at the other end and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think that's for me is just, yeah, I'm just trying to balance it all in my head. But I think once I got to grips with, I don't know, there's something for me. I get quite into giving men oral sex. I don't know. I get really, it's one of the things that like super turns me on. Like, just makes me really super, super horny. I can practically have an orgasm just almost doing that. I get really, I suppose because the thing about like a penis is it's so responsive, right? It's, you can feel every single little thing that's going on with it. And so, whereas when you're with women or just even myself, right? It's like,
Yeah.
is anything happening down there? Oh, yeah, it's getting engorged. That's good. But you can't
Yeah.
feel, my legs can't stop twitching, other stuff that happens. But it's not the same as having what is quite a large area
Yeah.
that's so responsive.
Right. Right. So how does how does it change with age? What is your experience of giving head to younger men versus older men?
I suppose one of the things is around just the erections, just generally erections, right? Is I notice that with older guys, or to be honest, guys that have maybe just watched too much porn, that's the other person is it kind of, the erection will kind of come and go and come and go and come and go. It doesn't have that same kind of like steady quality that a younger person might have. Also, sometimes it just doesn't get as hard generally.
Yeah.
And somebody wrote to me recently about that. And I said, if you are worried about that, he was 66. I said, if you're worried about it, you should go and see your doctor, because sometimes that shit is about stuff that can be worrying.
Everybody should go to their doctor. I mean,
Yeah.
you should be having regular checkups and include sexual function in, this is just a sidebar here. Um, have a yearly checkup and bring up, what's happening and the changes that you see, and that's what they're there for, and if they're not willing to have that conversation with you, get
Mm.
another doctor or go to a urologist or a specialist or a gynecologist if you have a vulva, and talk about these things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And, just going back to the different ways that people like it, the scrotum thing is really interesting, right? Because some guys just love having their scrotum played with.
Yeah,
So
those are my guys.
can I was going to ask you something really intimate, which is, obviously there's the ones who are like, oh, put it in your mouth. Um, I don't, I don't mind doing that, but
Oh, is that the question? Do I
yeah,
like to? Oh
yeah,
my
it's
God, that's the best thing ever. Is to get that one at a time.
yeah, and just when it comes down to oral, blowjobs, I think the same rule applies as to going down on a woman. Like, ask a guy how he likes it. Like,
Yeah,
does this feel good? Right? I had somebody say to me, God, you're going at it a bit hard. And I
yeah,
thought, oh, am I? Oh, the I thought that's kind of the way that most people. Oh, okay, fine. And he was like, no, I like it really gentle, like really,
yeah,
really gentle, really slow, really gentle. I thought, oh, okay, okay,
yeah.
technique change over time.
Well, can we talk about suction? Because that
Yeah,
I had a similar when I was young, like young, like maybe college young.
yeah.
Um, I was I had a lover who wanted a lot of suction, like really hard suction.
Wow.
And it was like I was very inexperienced. And so
Yeah,
I thought that was like a good, parlor trick or something, like I
yeah.
thought, and I was really good at doing that, like at getting the suction. Like I don't know what it is about the shape of my mouth, but the guy was, or if he was just sort of giving me compliments, but like,
Yeah.
wow, that's really good. And then the next guy, I did that, and I had to peel him off the ceiling. He was like, "What on earth are you doing?" Like, ow. Like, that is the most miserable experience. I'm traumatized. I need to go to a level 1 trauma center right now. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that isn't universal. And that's one thing that sometimes if I know that we're leading up to that, like we haven't, I'm dating someone new, not now I'm married, but
Yeah.
if I was dating someone new, I would say, like, how do you like your blowjobs?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not like an interview question, but like, just in the course of sexy talk as we're leading to the point of the relationship where I think we might have sex,
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
suction? Do you not like suction? You know, do you like
Yeah.
feel a little bit of teeth as long as it's not,
Yeah.
how do you feel about your scrotum so that I can deliver once we get there,
Yeah. And then there's the other aspect, which is the spit. So, so,
Okay, tell me about the spit. What do you
so
got to say, Suzanne, about
I'll tell you, I'll tell
it
you,
and
I'll tell
fellatio?
you a really funny story about the spit, right? So I was with this guy many years ago, who had aspirations to be a porn star, and he just loved being an exhibitionist. He just liked having sex in front of people and all that kind of stuff, or out in the forest or whatever, right? My friends used to call him Sting because he looked exactly like Sting, like exactly like Sting.
Oh,
He was quite a good looking guy. He had a gorgeous cock, and he was slim, and yeah, he was Scottish, and yeah.
oh,
Anyway,
God. Sounds like
he
heaven.
he was quite yummy, but we had a bit of a drinking problem together, so
Yeah.
that wasn't so good. That wasn't so good. Anyway, and we didn't really have anything in common other than sex. And he had gone to be an extra in a porn movie, and the lead male character, was not able to perform. So the female director apparently was asking the extras, if anybody wanted to step in to basically receive the blowjob from the female lead. Of course, this was like his dream gig, right? So he steps in, and she's going at it, and the camera's panning up to his face, and he's doing his ecstasy face and everything, right? And then she spit on his cock, and he didn't like that. He was not into that. And the camera panned up, and he just made this expression of total revulsion, which is not good in a porn movie. That's not what you want.
Oh, my
So I
goodness.
suspect that bit was cut out. Um, but he said to me, I almost lost it. And then he came, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, very pleased with himself for being able to come with, all these people watching and cameras and all the rest of it. But when he told me about the spitting episode, I just had to laugh, because I just was imagining, like, it's all going great. The film's rolling, the director's all very excited. The girl spits, she thinks it's really hot, and then he just makes this grossed out face, like, ew, disgusting. But of course, there are some people who really get grossed out by that, and then there's the other side who are just like, spit on my dick, spit on my dick, and you're like, oh, okay, like, it goes back to the, do you like it too wet? Like,
But
sometimes, like,
is it that, or is it the, like, there that we have this conversation in in reverse with people with vulvas who, and that's a big thing in porn movies, that a guy will like huck a loogie, and like, for me, I'm not into, like, I explored kink a little bit, right? And at one point I went to a professional dom, which actually
yeah,
might be a great episode to talk about.
yeah,
um and he, at one point, he was helping me like explore and understand. I mean, it was definitely personally driven, and I had some I'll talk about this when we do an episode on this, but I went there for some personal healing in with my body, and as a cancer survivor, and it's a really interesting journey, and he was phenomenal. Um but he was also helping me explore kink, like that. As a sexologist, that's a really great thing to have firsthand experience. And so in that exploration, at one point he said, how do you feel about degradation, humiliation, and degrading. And I was like, I don't know. Mm. And then he well, he kind of shoved his knee, like
Yeah.
he said some really nasty things about me, and I was like, okay, that's it. That is not a turn on. Like, that's the opposite of that's not what I want, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I like somebody to tell me how fabulous I am. I don't have,
Yeah.
worship me, don't degrade me.
Yeah.
So the idea that someone would like, of course, I like a lot of spit and saliva and to be wet, but the act of spitting on someone carries with it this like humiliation
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or degradation that I think is part of it's not about the saliva.
Yeah. Although when you're doing that as a woman to a guy's dick, then, for me, it is about the saliva because you just sometimes it's just going to help with the lubrication and everything like that. To be honest, I never even think about it if I ever, I do it from time to time. I never even think about it. I just think, oh, I need to get this more wet,
Wetter.
just
Right.
more wet, right?
Here's
So,
the other thing. When you don't have a camera crew around you and the lights are on and it's like a big thing, a big
yeah,
production, when you're in the bedroom and you're dark and you're are, that most guys are not going to notice, unless you're
no.
like,
Exactly.
but if you're, I'm a terrible spitter. Like I can't, like if I'm walking along, I can't actually get it, or in the sink when I have a cold and I'm trying to like spit. I can't do it. I don't know how people do that. Make a nice little encapsulated hunk of spit. Mine
Oh,
just
I don't know.
drool.
Yeah, I
So
haven't.
when I'm giving head, often, of course, I do that as well. But I'm just drooling.
No, exactly. I
God,
think
the
that's
lights
right.
are
It's
out.
more of a drooling thing. That's true. It's not really spitting. It's more drooling. Let's get the words right. It's not really spitting. It's more drooling. That's true. It is. And sometimes in the act of doing that, that is kind of what happens. But yeah. So there's the scrotum. We've discussed that. There's obviously the frenulum, right?
Frenulum.
Frenulum, sorry, the frenulum, which is the little piece of skin that's like kind of sort of tucked underneath the head. Is
Yeah, and the function of the frenulum is that it attaches the foreskin to the penis, to the
there,
shaft of the penis, or the glands of the penis, which is the head. Yeah.
and it can feel really good if you lick on it.
All those nerve endings are right there, and you can feel there's like a ridge. It's a little bumpy there or wrinkly there. And so it's very, very sensitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but in a nice way. Usually, I've never had anyone tell me it was too sensitive. Have you ever had anyone tell you that area was too sensitive?
Never.
No. So it's like sensitive in a nice way, not like pulling the hood of
Not
your
like a
clitoris back
clitoris way.
and
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's that little bit between your anus and your scrotum.
The taint.
Another
Do
that
you know the word taint?
no, I thought it was the perineum. Is it not the
It is
perineum?
the perineum. In the States, it's often called the taint, which is a
Oh,
non-scientific word for that. So if you ever hear people talking about, that I really like lick my taint,
oh,
that's
I've never heard that.
that's at the perineum.
Interesting. So there you go.
Yeah, and so that area, the skin is sensitive. There are nerve endings there, but also behind that area, if you push in, first of all, the prostate, for those of you who don't know, is often referred to as the male G spot. Um, and it's the prostate gland is largely its main function is to make semen and contribute to the production of semen. There are other functions as well, and it is adjacent to the bladder, and you can access it most directly through the rectum.
Rectum.
Right. So if a man's lying on his back and you put your finger in and you press up gently, and eventually probably quite aggressively, depending on the tolerance of your partner for intensity.
Yeah.
Um, and you massage that area, or the come hither, as I heard you say recently.
Yes.
You're going to stimulate the prostate, and it's incredibly pleasurable for the vast majority of male
Yeah.
body owners.
Yeah.
And
Once they overcome the fact that you're sticking your finger up their ass, they're,
yes, yes, and
they're
I always love when a man is, or is like, or a person with a prostate, I should say. There are some
yeah,
trans folks who
yeah,
don't identify as men and have prostates. Um, I always am sort of um like admirous, or just, supportive of a man who says, you can put, can you please put your finger up my ass,
yeah.
like, you know like, can own that, you know
And
and
I
the
think
only reason
again,
why sorry,
yeah,
you
I
go.
think again there is, the thing about all of this is like you've got all this stuff going on, and I'm getting in a position where you can play around with this. It also takes some degree of trial and error, because depending on how big or small your partner is, and where your finger is going up and then you're going down on them and everything, it can, can be quite, I find I'm like, oh, I gotta move, I've got a big cramp in my leg.
Yeah, yeah. um so So there are a few things here that we've touched on that I feel like, okay, what's the takeaway from all of this? How do I organize all of these different things into a fabulous blowjob?
That's a very good question.
So one of the things that I think I've heard over and over again from men is that the biggest turn on with a blowjob is not necessarily the technical skill with which a partner attempts this. It's the attitude. That the
Mm,
biggest turn on is when their partner is really excited about, and can't, like, I think of it as licking an ice cream cone. Like
yeah.
a big, delicious ice cream cone, just showed up in front of you. And even if you don't have a lot of tolerance for, you have an overactive gag reflex, we can talk about that in a moment, like how to
Yeah.
manage a gag reflex, because I have some tips on that. But but the just like, oh wow, this is incredible. I get to play with this amazing penis. Like that vibe is a huge turn on.
Yeah.
And look, if they're not going to have an orgasm through what you're doing, which is common, I want to normalize that, really common. Like, don't you use, if your partner has a penis and you're giving them head and they're not going to have an orgasm, do not let that reflect back your own skill as a lover,
No,
period. Same for
no,
both. Like, let's normalize that. That's not the measure of a good lover.
no, completely. No, that's right.
So that attitude and enthusiasm is huge. And then from there, do you have something that you do, how you move into the actual blowjob sequence?
No, no, not never, not really. I think the thing is, as you say, it's about it when they know that you really love doing it. That's one thing. I do think that there is something about technique, but mostly technique comes down to asking what they like, and listening, and paying attention to what you're feeling, and all of that. And I think as well that the other thing, of course, about it is that one of the most fun things you can do, well, I think anyway, is like sit on a guy's face while you're going down on him, and and I think that's really horny and fun. And I think the one of the things I
Otherwise known as
find,
69ing.
69. And one of the things I was going to say about age, which I think is one of the things that I've definitely noticed with older men these days, is that one of the benefits, I think, of being older is that guys aren't thinking anymore, if you stick your finger up my bum or I ask you to do that, that has any meaning regarding my sexuality or anything. It just means I'm just enjoying myself, and that feels good. And I think there's a lot of older guys that I've met that are more willing to just now experiment, consider, like, oh, why don't we try that? Why don't we do that? Whereas in my younger days, they would have gone like, oh no, because if you stick your finger near there, that has a whole implication around my sexuality. And you're like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with your sexuality. It
Yeah,
has to do with a pleasure part of your body.
yeah, I think that's really important. Has absolutely nothing. Yeah, there are places in your body that feel good, that can be stimulated, that have nothing to do with who you desire. It's really,
Totally.
it's such a myth. So if anybody needs to hear this, if your partner likes to have, if your partner is in a male body and likes to have their body stimulated through their anus and rectum, it means absolutely nothing about
That's
their sexual orientation, right?
nothing.
Some people like a neck massage, some people like a back massage, some people don't like a massage. Like it's all, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
No. And then the other thing I would say is like the swallowing thing is, it's a very personal thing. And I think that there is an element of it which is so driven by porn, and and I don't think that anybody should be expected to do that if they don't want to do that. And I don't really have I don't have a feeling about it one way or another, to be honest. Yeah.
I don't have a response. First of all, I do have a response. First of all, in porn, the way pornography is shot, there's something called the cum shot, and you really
Yeah.
actually can never, like, you have to show the penis coming and the cum
Yeah.
coming out of the penis. So actually, the fact is in pornography, no one's swallowing, because
No,
that's
that's
the stuff that you have to show,
yeah.
and that's huge. Um, and then when I know my mother listens to these, and so I hate, and she's no prude, believe me, like she's fine. But I get like a little bit shy when hear, let's think about, so Bobby, put your hands over your ears and go, la 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 la. So when I'm giving head, right? Like I've
Yeah.
thought about this many times, and I work with a lot of people and I coach. I don't coach as much technique. When people come to me,
Yeah.
it's not because they want to know how to give a really good blowjob. It's usually we're working on deep-seated issues and a lot of trauma, and it's not really
Yeah.
this. But I have done a decent amount of pleasure-based sex education. And one thing that I am continually curious about is how you would not swallow. Because by the time my partner is on the verge of having an orgasm and coming and ejaculating, they're so far down my throat, I wouldn't know how not to. It shoots right down there. It's almost not even called swallowing. It's like it's like a fuel injection or something. It's like before I know it, it's in my belly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
So how do
yeah.
you not swallow?
Well, I mean, I think the thing is, it's a kind of, if we're going to go down the sort of like, what do you do thing, I think sometimes it's a bit of a hand and then a bit of a mouth
Yeah,
and then a bit of a hand and then a bit of a mouth and a hand and
yeah,
a mouth and a hand and a mouth and a hand and a mouth. And then it depends on where you are on that trajectory
that's right.
when they're at that point, right?
That's right.
So
And
you could just be in the hand bit, and then it just comes out. But
yes,
I was curious because we're reaching our time limit here. And I know that everybody's on the edge of their seats, going, "What's the gag reflex trick, Zoe?"
so sorry. I forgot. I threw that out there. Okay, so here's the deal with the gag reflex is that you can decondition your gag reflex. You can make so, but that happens over time. So
Yeah.
the first thing that you do is when the penis is erect, you hold it gently, very gently. Just hold it and imagine a lot of the gag reflex. It's two things. It's one a mental thing and one a
Yeah.
physical thing. So you have to be maybe this is something to do with somebody a partner, a regular partner who you
I
can share
trust.
like
Yeah.
I'm and that like I'm gonna make gagging noises, but do you mind if I use your penis to for a little bit of back of throat training?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
doubt highly that the answer will be no.
Yeah.
So then you hold it and you just relax with this penis in your mouth
Yeah.
and just sort of accept, like this is okay and this isn't
Yeah.
gonna like this is not harmful, and you sort of unwind all of those the sort of mental thing,
Yeah.
and more importantly you're relaxing and increasing the tolerance of your gag reflex to recognize that this is not an intrusion, this is not something that needs to be coughed up,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know
I
and
mean,
so
yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
No, I mean, and so the exercise though, I want to sort of normalize that this can take, it can take a series of like 20, 30, 40 blowjobs, to just sort of get into that um to get into a space where your gag reflex is relaxing over time. Some people it happens very quickly. It's like a switch, like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
like I actually can handle this. One of the things that I really like, and we can talk about deep throating another time and what that means, right? But like I like to have the penis in the back of my throat
Do
and
you?
then like massage it with my throat muscles.
Bloody hell, that sounds very sophisticated.
It isn't really, it's almost like, how
I can
you
hear
know,
the men. The men are already, I'm hearing them already on the other end. They're just like, they are so beyond excited at this point. They don't even know what's going on. They're just like, what the fuck? That sounds unbelievable.
we'd have to get my husband here. He has a perfect sized penis to do this with. We'll have to
Because
get him
I,
on and
yeah,
talk about it.
I used to have a guy who'd loved the gagging thing years ago, but he was a Dom guy, and that was part of that whole Dom thing. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, yeah, because I was doing the whole sub thing, and that was a bit of kind of role play. But I have to admit, it's not like my favorite thing to do. I don't get really excited by it, and I've never had anybody complain that, in fact, just the opposite. As I said, I've been told I'm a superstar, which when I go to my grave, that's what it'll say on it, probably. That mom gave a great blowjob. And no, that sounds rude. Not that, but yeah. No, not that way, obviously. But no, I think I think what we've demonstrated is that there are many, many different ways to satisfy a man, very many different ways. And if you want to know how to satisfy your man, just ask.
Very good.
There you go. Zoe, as always, it's been an enlightenment. And hopefully Substack and the rest of humanity won't ban us. And we'll be number one in how to give blowjob podcasts. So yeah. Lovely to see you again. Have a lovely, lovely day in
Likewise.
LA. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.